Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and I've got a huge announcement in this video, so keep your eyes and ears open. It deals with $50,000 worth of prize money, so don't miss it. While this year's three-point contest didn't have the same energy with only a handful of fans in the stands, it still packed all the excitement of a competition that went down to the wire. And as these shooters went through the racks, including a new three-point ball from way downtown, they left us a lot of important clues as to what separates them from mere mortals. And today, we're going to find out the secrets they've learned about shooting the three. First up is Jalen Brown, one of two Celtics players in the competition, but who isn't shooting an elite percentage from behind the arc, and it showed in the results as he hit the fewest shots in the competition. It started out poorly when he didn't realize the clock had started, but here's what I noticed about his shooting. Check how he lifts both feet off the ground into a 1-2. This is a way to simulate the catch and shoot as much as possible, as well as to help him get lift into the air. Brown relies more on the jump than most shooters, and he definitely struggled to maintain the smooth release. You can see when it was more violent, the shot would not go in, and when it was smoother from the set point to the elbow straightening and wrist snapping, it went in more often. Let's compare a make from the top of the key to a miss from the same spot. Here's how high he got off the ground even though he hits the rack on the way up. Now compare that to the money ball where he added even more legs into the shot. You can see there's a couple inch difference here, and it sends it long and off target. Let's look at his left hand. He's got a classic position on the side of the ball with the fingertips getting close to the top. Notice how the fingers come off the ball first, and while the thumb doesn't impart any influence on the release, the heel of the hand does in an effort to keep it aligned to the basket. Also notice that the whole left arm straightens as well, a very common trait among shooters. One of the biggest keys to three-point shooting, whether it's in a real game or the three-point contest, is achieving optimal rhythm, which is another way of saying you need to have proper energy transfer, which is the same key that gives you an edge when playing Basketball Arena on your mobile device. And best of all, there's a $50,000 prize at stake. The best shooters in the NBA got to that level by working harder on their jump shots than anybody else. And that's what it takes to get on a winning streak in Basketball Arena, as you can use the dash for extra speed, slam dunks for the easy buckets close in, and superpowers to overcome any defense imaginable. But watch out, your energy level is key and it can run out fast if you don't manage it properly, just like missing a bunch of balls on that last rack as the time quickly runs out. I've been playing it non-stop since I downloaded it, and you will too. So install Basketball Arena now. Yeah! Come find me at BBALLBREAKDOWN without the O, and we can find out who's got game and who's going to get paid in their $50,000 money prize event, which is similar to the prize money the winner of the three-point contest wins by outshooting his opponents. And that leads us to the second Boston Celtic in the contest. And Jayson Tatum also hadn't been like his normal self this season from behind the arc, but it didn't stop him from nailing an impressive 26 points worth of threes in the first round. That said, Tatum's mechanics have always been a curiosity to me. His elbow juts out as he prepares to swing the ball up into the shot, and then he scoops it underneath the ball with some wiggle, scraping the inside of his bicep alongside the rib cage. He also utilizes what we call late extension with his wrist, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and he takes more time than most to get the wrist flexed back before release. The whole shot is multi-segmented as his hips thrust forward a bit as his knees bend, while the arm swings towards his midline, there's the late wrist, and then a one-motion shot as the ball stays in front of his face and gets from the set point to the release point quickly. His feet start wider than shoulder width, which is a little unusual, but end up shoulder width after the jump and when he lands. Let's get to Zach LaVine, who's been absolutely scorching the Nets this season and having a dominant, albeit unheralded season for the Chicago Bulls. He's got a bit of a two-motion shot because the ball pauses at the set point for about 10 frames, as you can see here, before the elbow begins to snap. For guys with springy legs, maintaining this position briefly serves to help control power output. Check how he imparts influence with his offhand thumb by rotating the wrist to be parallel to the ball path on release. As a result, his left arm does not extend all the way like we saw with Jaylen Brown. He couldn't get close with the extra long balls, and one reason could be that because of the pause at his set point, he needs to impart more power from his arms, and that's where it's hard to calibrate the shot left or right and long and short. We move on to another set of teammates, this time for the Utah Jazz, as Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley were representing the best team in the West. Conley is having a career year in three-point percentage, and there are ample reasons why. The first thing that jumped out at me is the footwork on the right wing. He is using the left-right footwork typical of a righty. But get this, I think this might be the better way to shoot these shots anyway. By anchoring the shooting foot first, it gets the proper alignment immediately and limits any potential drift while in the air and releasing the shot. Another curious thing was that he opted to grab the balls off the rack across his body only on the right wing. Everywhere else, he grabbed them from the left and utilized the typical right-left footwork. Conley's rhythm is a throwback to an earlier era of shooting, where he syncs the lifting of the arms up to the bending of the knees down. This used to be the definition of a two-motion shot because the arms were swinging up too early, but because Conley has minimal knee bend and a quick, springy jump, the legs can catch up to the arms and transfer enough power to consistently make shots from 25 feet. Another interesting detail, he does indeed follow the ball with his eyes upon release, but does not need to move his head or tilt his neck to do so. Having Conley's teammate Donovan Mitchell in the contest was a bit curious, considering he's never completed the season above average from three-point range, and it showed as he had the second lowest score in the first round. One thing I'm wondering is if it might end up being better to grab the balls across your body by putting the rack on the left side, because as you can see with Mitchell, he has to open up his body to the right to grab the ball, then close it in order to get the proper alignment. Each time gives him the potential for being slightly different. Let's look at the last two shots from the left wing side by side to figure out if there's a clue as to why one swished and the other missed. You can see that the shot that misses on the right reveals the ball coming up a frame or two earlier than the shot on the left. This slight difference in rhythm is all it takes to cause a miss when shooting from 25 feet away. Last but not least, Steph Curry stepped up to the line to assert his standing as the greatest shooter of all time, and he did not disappoint. With the highest first-round score, he lit it up in the first round, nailing all but 7 of the 27 total shots. The first thing you should notice is how he consistently follows the ball with his eyes on every shot. This includes a little head tilt as well. And while some will say doing this provides valuable feedback for the next shot, I also think it allows him to be more aware of his internal body mechanics, as his focus does not stay cast on an object 30 feet away. It goes right back to the ball, which enables him to be more aware of the hip, elbow, and wrist as he's shooting it. This is certainly an aspect of the mental side of shooting, but as we discovered, it's this part of the game that is crucial to being elite. Steph has an advantage because he doesn't jump off the ground very high at all, so he won't risk fatigue as he gets to the last two racks. Combine that with his quick one-motion shot, where the ball never stops moving from the bottom of the dip to the release, and you've got the kind of smooth energy transfer that is the secret to what makes him such a great shooter from so deep. The rhythm is the key. He sinks the right toe tap to the beginning of the arm swing up into the shot, ensuring optimal energy transfer, enabling him to shoot from so far and maintain accuracy. Check the elbow snap and floppiness of the wrist. This effortless action is easily replicated, but requires tons of reps to self-organize properly. But unlike a Danny Green, who doesn't straighten his elbow on the release, by snapping it like this, he can ensure the same motion every single time. Steph also utilizes quite a bit of a turn before jumping to the shot. You can see his body is rotated to his left in order to properly get the shooting hip and elbow in line with the basket. No one should be teaching 10 toes to the rim or being square to the basket if you want your players to hit more distant shots. And Steph is the poster child. Look where his toes end up pointing when he lands on his last right corner shot. Let's do some comparisons on one of the key components of the rhythm of the shot, the time it takes for the toes to lift off the ground after the ball gets to the set point. With Jaylen Brown, it's about 11 frames from the time he gets his elbow bent and the ball in position until the toes lift off the ground. Jayson Tatum takes about 4 frames of video to get off the ground once the ball is set and loaded. LaVine is around 4 frames. Conley is 5 frames. Mitchell is 5 frames. Steph is only 3 frames, as he is already almost in the air by the time the ball gets to the set point of his shot. There are lots of things to glean from each of these shooters and what enables them to make so many shots from so far away. Comparing the mechanics of all these players to Steph, it should seem clear that the fluidity of his shot is what separates him, as his one motion shot, snapping of the elbow and floppy wrist, following the ball with his eyes, rotation to the left for alignment, and quickness from set point to toe off the ground all make him the greatest shooter we've ever seen and this year's champion, snatching the crown from Mike Conley by hitting the last shot from the corner when he knew before it went in that the contest was over.